Hello and welcome once again. Can you believe it? We are now up to lesson 5. This is very exciting. Now let's get right into it. Last time, you will remember we learned the pattern for what we call the active participle. And as you remember, the active participle was the doer of the action. And in Arabic, it followed this nice pattern, fa'il, with fa, ain, lam being the root. Some examples of active participles: katib, writer; sabah, swimmer; sa'ek, qa'id, and so forth. Well, that is great, and I'm sure you remember it very well from all the review exercises. This time, well, if there is an active participle, there has to be a passive participle. So what is the passive participle? Passive participle is basically the equivalent of done, or the done to. The doer and the done to. Easiest to look at some examples in English. Okay, these are all examples of what would be passive participles in English. Written, broken, known, finished. They're all things that are done. Now, what you also notice from English, right, they all have different patterns. Like EN is common, ED is common. This one just says N. This one has EN, but it doubles up the letter T. Okay, so they're very inconsistent in English, but you know what I'm about to tell you. Arabic, being as wonderful as it is very consistent. But first, before we go on, let's look at how these words are used, because this is very important. So typically, the active participle functions as an adjective. For example, the box was opened. The law is written. The truth will be known. You can see these are all passive participles, right? Just like these. Just like these, yes. Passive participles, these are all dones. These are all things that are done, even when they're talking about the future. But you can see we're using them as an adjective. How can we tell? Well, we replace the box was big, the box was ugly, and so forth. Here are some more examples with them being used as modifying adjectives. He replaced the broken window. This is still, even though this is an adjective, this is still a passive participle. Understand that, right? Okay, now occasionally, far less commonly, we use these words as nouns. Here are some examples in English. Right, we talk about something being a given. Oh, that's a given. Well, think about it. The word given is a done. It is the passive participle of the verb to give. Knowns, right? They're knowns. And so, again, this is a negative, but it comes from the word known, the passive participle of being known. The key thing here is to see, no matter how they're being used, these are all the same type of words. They all express the idea of a verb being done, completed. Now, the great thing is they work the same way in Arabic, so we're going to use them for the same purposes. Well, let's get right to it, shall we? Okay, we shall. Going back to our trusty old root, fa'ala, which you, of course, know means to do. I won't even mention that. So what is the passive participle pattern, the PPP? Well, you're holding your breath. You can't hardly wait to see it. It is this, maf'ul. Notice we have attached a meme with a sound, with a feta, a ma. Remember back in the lesson on identifying roots, we told you that meme is often an add-on. Well, this is an example of where it is added on. A ma added to the front, and an u between the second and third root letters, and notice it always has a sukoon on this first letter. So the pattern is ma'ful. You'll be very happy to know that this word means done, and this is the name for a passive participle. It's called ism maf'ul, or just the maf'ul. Easy enough. Again, isn't Arabic great? We have the pattern that shows you how to do it, and that means done, and so we know exactly what the whole thing is, unlike trying to figure out what on earth a passive participle is. Okay, so let's do some examples. Here's one of our favorite roots, kataba. You know that means to write. So, written will be, yes, you're right, maktub. And again, as we always recommend, the best way to learn this is to learn a example of the pattern and just stick to it. So you know katib is a writer, maktub is written, and just plug every other root into this same pattern. Maktub, written. This is in the Bible. If you know the story when Satan comes to Jesus in the wilderness and tries to tempt him, what does he say? Well, in the Arabic version of the Bible, he says to the devil, Maktub, it is written. All right, Maktub. Okay, here we have another familiar root, arafa, to know. So we want known. Known is going to have to be, you are correct, ma'ruf. Again, attach the same thing. Attach a ma in the front and an u here. Ma'ruf, maktub. Here's another example, fahama. Fahama is to understand. Understood, mafhum. Ma in the front, ooh here, mafhum, understood. This one is used a lot in Arabic. If someone says something to you, right, and you say, mafhum, mafhum, I get it, understood. Or like in the army when they're giving orders to a subordinate, mafhum, you got it, you understand? Mafhum, naam, naam, mafhum. Now, one of the functions of the passive participle, it's just like in English, this is used in a lot of idiomatic expressions. To say something is like, here are some examples. Min al-mafhum. This means it is understood. Literally, it is of the understood. Min al-mafhum. Yani, it's understood. And the subject here is huwa. Min al-mafhum and something. It's understood something. Min al-ma'ruf. It is known, blank. Min al-maktub. It is written, blank. And so forth. There are a lot of expressions, pretty much any passive participle you can put into this pattern. Okay? Now I'm going to show you one more interesting thing. Okay, the particle ghair, which I think you may know means not or un, is used as a prefix, and this is put in front of any passive participle to give the impression of not or un. So, غير معروف, yani not known or unknown. هذا غير معروف. Who is this person? What is his name? اسمه غير معروف. It's not known. غير مفهوم, yani not understood. I told him something, but it was غير مفهوم. Okay. So here is an example of a passive participle being used in a sentence. قرأت, I read, الكتاب, the book, المكتوب بالعربية. I read the book written in Arabic. قرأت الكتاب مكتوب بالعربية. Oh, you read the book Midak Ali by Naguib Mahfouz. Did you read the English version or did you read the Arabic version? La la. قرأت الكتاب المكتوب بالعربية. I read the book written in Arabic. Okay, so this is an example of how passive participles work. That works the same way in English. So this is fabulous. Now again, working backwards. Once we learn one word from any root, we don't need to look up the other words from the root, right? We're going to already know them because we know our patterns. Here is a word you will see a lot if you go to the Arab world. Mamnu'a. Mamnu'a. Some of you know that, right? Mamnu'a. Mamnu'a means it's prohibited, whatever it is. Dakhul, mamnu'a. Tadkhin, mamnu'a. Sayarat, mamnu'a. Right? Something is mamnu'a. Okay, so mamnu'a is prohibited. So, how would I get the verb to prohibit? Don't look it up in the dictionary. Okay, once you know a word from this root, you can determine the root, and therefore you will have the verb. The verb to prohibit, right? منع, تمنع, يمنع, عمنا, منعت, منعنا. Okay, this is the verb. Let's look at another one. This is another very common passive participle. Maqbool. Maqbool means literally accepted. So the idea of okay, that's something I accept. مقبول هذا مقبول, or very often this is used in the negative. هذا غير مقبول. You know, when you be negotiating over a price. أريد 20 دينار. لا 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 لا. هذا غير مقبول. هذا غالي. Right? Not accepted. Now, if مقبول is accepted, what is the verb to accept? Don't look it up. You know it. قبل has to be. أقبل. أقبل, I accept. قبلت, I accepted that. Okay? Here's another one. Relatively common participle. مسموح. مسموح is the opposite of ممنوع. ممنوع, prohibited. مسموح is permitted or allowed. So, this time we're going to go a little bit farther. With nothing but this here, مسموح, as your clue, we want to know how would you say this. Don't look it up. Don't look anything up. You have all the tools you need because you can figure out the root, and so you can say this. You got it? You should have come up with this. لن نسمح. We will not allow. Okay, how? We took this word, مسموح, we chopped off the ma, we took out the u, we got the root as سمح. Okay, we know we conjugate this for we, nesma, we allow. Len means will not. Len nesma, we will not allow. We did not allow. Lem nesma, and so forth. See, this is the idea. You learn one word from the root, you can derive all the others. And unlike English, they're fairly, they're almost completely consistent. There are some exceptions. Now, so far, every example we have shown you has been using these words as adjectives. Now, we're going to talk a little bit here about how to use them as nouns. It works the same as in English. So here we have the word mashroob. You should be able to look right at that and tell what it means. The root is, of course, sharaba. We know sharaba is to drink. Mashroob means drunk, not in the sense of intoxicated, but in the sense of swallowed as a liquid. So we get this. Mashroob is something which is drunk, but it's not generally used as an adjective to say, you know, that, okay, that soda over there is drunk. Hada Coca-Cola mashroob, it's been drunk. It is more often used as a noun to mean something that is consumed, therefore a beverage or a drink. Now notice it's the same word, it's got the same meaning, but the usage is generally to talk about a drink. Now the great thing is that most participles are going to take this very familiar feminine plural ending, which you know, it's the one you love because it's regular. So mashroob becomes mashrubat. It's used when we're talking about things, not when we're talking about people. That's the exception. So mashroob, mashrubat. This is the plural. Mashrubat is drinks. And this is a straightforward pattern. So let's look at another one. Here's another passive participle. Now, you may recognize that the verb alama is to know. You say, I thought arafa is to know. So is alama. They have slightly different meanings, but ma'lum means known. Ma'lum is something that is known. So you can say that. Min al-ma'lum, this thing is known. Well, here is the plural. Ma'lumat. Ma'lumat. These are, literally, we translate these as knowns. Well, that's a great word, but what this really is used for, ma'lumat means information. The things that are known. Ma'lumat is information. Okay, and it's, again, it's the usage. Now, of course, this seems so simple we have to throw a wrench in here somewhere. So there's slight differences in usage, and these are really very slight. They're not really changing the meaning a whole lot. Arabic often uses a passive participle for words in English that we have these endings for. Basically means something that can be or is able to be whatever the action is. Now it's a slight difference. Like for example, I'll give you the best example is probably this one right here. The root lemasa means to touch, no problem. Melmus, okay, literally you would translate this as touched, and it can be used that way, but how often are you going to use touched? Like, I mean, it doesn't mean like I am touched in my heart. How often are you going to use that? Well, not very often. So what this word really is used more often to mean is the word tangible. Now the difference is, in English, tangible means something that can be touched. Melmus means something that is touched. It doesn't necessarily mean anyone actually has touched this, but they're giving the same idea that it is something that is able to be touched. Okay, just like mashroob, the word we saw before. Mashroob does not have to be drunk. It could be the bottle could be sealed, all the liquid could still be in there. It's still a mashroob. We mean something that has been drunk or can be drunk. Now again, this is a minor distinction. It's just the way the logic, the way we look at it. Now, if you remember last time, we had a slight irregularity with words that have a long vowel in the middle, and that will be no different here. It's a little easier because a great many words this pattern will work for. So zara, to visit, becomes mazur, visited. Mazur is something that has been visited, no problem. However, this pattern does not hold for every single root. Oh my gosh, you're shocked, right? We found one that the pattern doesn't hold. Some words, like for example, the word ba'a, which looks the same, right? It has this aleph here. Ba'a is to sell, but the passive participle is mabi'a, meaning sold. Well, why isn't it mabua? This has to do with the short vowel that this word takes when it is used as a verb, and so you have to learn the conjugations of these hollow verbs in order to know that. So there are rules for it. We just haven't gotten to the rules, and you really don't need to worry about them. What you need to worry about is if you have a root with a long vowel in it and you see the E here, then this can well be the passive participle. How do you know that this is a root with a long vowel? Well, again, we eliminate the ma because we know that's an add-on. We are left with 3 letters. We're not left with 3 consonants, so we know this E has to be in the root, and unfortunately long vowels can change based on the context, based on the other letters that are around them. So this one happens to change to a ya. You really don't need to know why it does that or when it does that. Just realize that this is the passive participle. So, we have reviewed today the passive participle, which is of the form ma'ful and is known as the ma'ful. It has the pattern of being done, and it can be used as an adjective, most often also used as a noun, just like it is in English. So now you have plenty of review exercises and quiz ahead of you to solidify this and to review your knowledge of the active participle. So we wish you all the best at that. From me and my good friend Mia here. Thank you very much. Ma salama.